Mark, we're excited to have you on the show today. I'm looking forward to talking to you. It's good to meet you. You and I don't think we've ever met, have we?
No, no. I mean,
No.
I watched you on TV for years, but that's about it. I probably Google searched it 20,000 times, but aside from that, this will be our first time where you meet me.
Yeah. Yeah. I appreciate you taking the time. One of these days we'll probably hook up somewhere around the way.
Yeah,
So,
gotta be.
um, give me just a general sense of a little bit of your background. Where are you from? I mean, I don't have to go too far into it, but I know you played college volleyball. You went on and played a little bit professionally indoors. Just a little bit of backdrop on yourself.
Sure. Born and raised in Queens, New York. Started playing volleyball. I played like 1 year in high school, my junior year, and then I kind of gave up on it, and then I found it again in college, and played club at University of Delaware, then transferred to go play varsity at George Mason.
Yeah.
Went overseas for a few years, and then I was playing beach back and forth in between, and eventually just said I'd had enough of indoor and went beach full time.
Yeah.
I've been playing on the AVP now, I guess, for 10 years, and now I have a coaching company
Yeah.
where we coach people online. We have tons of online courses and videos and content, and we also run training camps and classes every day in Hermosa Beach, California.
Yeah. Not so much nowadays, though, unfortunately.
Not so much nowadays, but it's given us like a cool opportunity to really boost our online programs, which
Yeah.
was really on the back burner while we were coaching people in person. So
Yeah. What got you into volleyball in the first place? You're a junior in high school. I'm assuming you're playing other sports. What kind of attracted you to the game?
yeah, I was baseball and football in high school, and uh, it had to be the people
Mm.
uh, first, I think. A few of the guys, like it was gym class, and some people were like, "Oh man, you can hit the ball so hard, and you're tall. Come play." And I think I just felt really appreciated
Huh.
there. And then I started thinking, well, not a lot of people play volleyball, so maybe that's an easy way to get a college scholarship. And I didn't realize at the time at all that like there were 21 schools that could give that. So I had
And only 4.5 scholarships at those schools.
yeah. I was like, all right, so no one really told me that I had 80 spots that I was vying for.
Yeah.
People who were already 4 years older than me.
Right.
That was actually kind of a stressful time because it was like, all right, I had planned on either baseball or football, and then this wrench was thrown in for volleyball, and gave it a shot my junior year because love the guys on the team. Everybody was like busting their butts, and then I did pretty well that year. But when I graduated, I kept trying to organize all of these workouts, like extra workouts, extra reps, and tournaments. I tried to turn my high school volleyball team into a club team so
Yeah.
that we could play together. And every time I ran an extra workout or tried to throw a tournament, none of the guys my age would show up. All the seniors had graduated, and I was like, wait a second. Anybody who wanted to put in the work is now gone.
Hmm.
And that was like really deeply upsetting to me. And I was like, okay, I played volleyball. I was like one of the best players in the league. My first year ever trying the sport in New
Mm-hmm.
York, where there were like 6 teams in our league, and I wasn't being surrounded by people who were willing to put in work. And so those two things, I was like, I need to be in a bigger pool where no matter what the sport, I wanted to be around like high caliber athletes who wanted to work.
Yeah.
And so I made the decision again. I basically begged the baseball coaches. I was like, I want to come back, and they're pretty hard on me about it, but they let me back. And then I went to college for football.
Oh, there you go. Seems logical, right?
Right. Yeah, I had a few offers for teams. I turned down a few like partial scholarships, and then I went to University of Delaware as an invited walk-on.
Hmm.
And after 1 year there, I was pretty miserable, but I found volleyball.
You found your way back. Once you get the bug, it's hard to get rid of it.
It's tough, those open gyms. People are just out there just banging, and it's like,
Yep.
let me play for a little while. And then I got practice in 30 minutes. So I could play for 20.
Then how'd you find your way to George Mason then?
My second year at Delaware, after playing a year and a half of club with the men's, the same thing kind of came around. Whereas like club athletes all of them aren't like the best, you know.
Right.
And again, with the extra workouts that I was trying to put in, because I brought that D1 football mentality into volleyball, and they're like, we play club because we don't want it to be a full-time job.
Mm-hmm.
And in my mind, I said, how can you expect or want to win? Like, if we lose and you're upset after we lose, then you're just like a liar, you know, because
Right.
you didn't put in the work
Right.
that is required to win.
Right.
So that upset me again. And so I sent out tapes to every college. And one of them, after a really long time, Mason, he's like, you can come try out, but you know, you would have to transfer to us before you even try it out. So there's no promises. And I was like, I'm there.
Well, luckily you did. So
yeah.
And then you went and played professionally. Give me some thoughts on playing overseas. And I mean, obviously I played as well, so I know very often, very real how it is. But give me just a couple your thoughts on your experience over there.
Have you ever read the book Playing for Pizza? First of all,
no, but I like the title though.
It's a really short, easy read, and it's about a ex-college football player who goes and plays in Italy. And I read that after my first year overseas, and I was like, this author either played overseas or he talked for hours with a guy that did.
Yeah.
You know, where you're like paid by the local restaurant in meals. Nothing to do.
Oh man, that's funny. I remember I had two buddies that went over and played, and you know, they played in kind of a lower league, and they, when they got over there, their teams was like, hey, do you guys want another job to make some additional money while you're here? And they're like, they look at their paychecks and they're like, yeah, sure, we'll take another job. So they ended up working at this chicken coop where they'd have to like, do you remember Napoleon Dynamite where he had to like transfer the chickens to like the other part of the coop? That's what they were doing. They had like these special gloves and they'd have to grab the chickens and like move them. So any free time they would have, they'd be at the chicken farm. I was just like, I mean, you got to love volleyball if you're going to do that for any period of time, right?
Yeah, it just makes sense to you because you're like, it's the only way you can play.
Right.
You know, after college, it's like, all right, I can play for a competitive team, and we practice four or five times a week if you're lucky. And then, you know, you get a couple matches a week. So it's like, if that's what you want to do. And then if you're in that situation, you're thinking that there's like some kind of light at the end of the tunnel where, hey, if I perform for this team, there's a team that'll treat me like a real professional. Mm-hmm. And that was the whole goal, you know, because I wanted to go on the Bring It tour. You know what that is?
Oh, yeah.
Tim Kelly and those guys.
Tim Kelly, that's right.
Mm-hmm. And I was thinking about going there. I signed up, but a guy who had graduated 2 years ahead of me in my school, or no, 3 years ahead of me in my school, he was the player coach in Sweden, a team called Vingåkers Volleyball Club. And he was like, hey, we got a bunch of young guys, and they're not like coached the best. He goes, I know setting and I know offensive design, but as far as serve receive, I want someone who knows it in and out and uses the same language that I use. So he basically brought me in to be the outside hitter and to lead a crew of younger than 22-year-old guys in serve receive, because, you know, like they're overseas, as you know, like professional could mean that you're playing with like 16, 17, 18-year-old guys, because that's just pro for them is just the highest level of their club program.
Right. It's like their developmental program pretty much. I mean, it's like oftentimes it's like our college system, but they're just doing it in their pro teams, their club teams.
Exactly.
Yeah. So tell me, so you played in Sweden. Mm-hmm. Was that, how long did you play there for?
Well, I played there 1 year.
Okay.
The next year I needed surgery on my shoulder. Did a lot of swings that year. as you probably know, like outside hitters overseas, they're feeding you every ball. If they hired you to be there and you're not on a team of studs, like you're
Yeah.
one of the 2 or 3 full-time pros, they're giving you every ball. So, you're taking a lot of swings every day. So my shoulder paid the price. I had to take a year off and get surgery, and it really sucked because the top team in the league recruited me back. So I played for like the number 6, 5. No, yeah, 5. We finished 5th or 4th, whatever it was.
Yeah.
The top team in the league next year. They're like, "Hey, come play for us." And I was stoked. And then the shoulder just never got better. And I was like, "Hey, can you hold on till Christmas? Like, because I can come for Christmas. I can play the half of the season and then playoffs." And they're like, "Yes." My shoulder still didn't get better. So big bummer there. But then the next year, I ended up going to play in Norway. There was a team that needed a player coach. So my second year playing pro, third year out of college, I was the head coach of a professional club team in Norway.
Really?
And I was,
Wow. And you were playing too? Player coach?
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
Which is kind of a cool bonus because they paid me like salary and a half.
Yeah.
So I was making more than any player in that league because I kind of had 2 roles.
Yeah.
And then, like you said, I was personal training at the local gym, running.
At least you weren't at the chicken coop.
That was it. But people loved getting trained by like an American personal trainer. They found it to be like so motivational. So you got a bunch of.
You love that. You love those northern European countries up there, huh?
No, I hated
it. Plus, you're over there during the winter too, which is rough.
Yeah. We
very minimal sunlight,
snow.
Right. Because I went to, because you're so far north that you get limited amounts of daylight during the day, right?
Yeah. Well, during the winter. Yeah.
During the winter, right?
Yeah.
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 Man,
so,
man.
No, it was. I remember like feeling bad for the kids because they would go into school and it was still dark, and then while they were in school, their window of daylight happened, and then it closed before they got out of school.
Oh man!
So like they never got to, aside from a lunch hour, they never got to go outside and enjoy daylight. And I was like, man, that's rough.
Yeah.
So.
Oh gosh, yeah, that does not sound fun.
No, but I ended up playing another year in Sweden a couple years later, and weird story, but I ended up like, okay, I stopped the job in Norway, then finished that season, and I went on the Bring It tour finally. I was like, I want to get introduced to some new teams. And I did that, and didn't get picked up on tour. I get a few offers where they're like, you're sitting in your dorm room after all these tryouts. Basically, it's you just playing back row threes against everybody else. You're playing back row threes forever, and they just want to see who's got the biggest swing. And didn't get picked up, but they're like, stay around because we got a lot of tape on you, and we know that we can put you on a team. Like, we know we'll get you there. So I was like, all right, I'll just go backpacking, and I'll keep updating you with my route. And if you know any club teams along the way, just like let me know so that I can stay in shape or introduce myself. And I went through Croatia. Like I went through Italy and Croatia. And
those are 2 good spots to backpack. They're beautiful.
Unreal.
Yeah.
Beautiful.
People don't know Croatia, man. Croatia's beautiful. When you go down the coast, it's amazing.
Warm water, like jumping everywhere into this clear sea. Yeah, I was shocked that Croatia was just absolutely gorgeous.
Yeah.
And so I found a team along that route. Like I was just like, hey, can I work out with this team? They're like, oh, I know that there's a club team in Split. Maybe I'll ask them. And they were in their preseason and they need an extra guy because a couple of their guys hadn't shown up for practice yet. So I just started doing their workouts and practicing with them. And after 5 days there, because I loved Split. I just loved hanging out in that town. They asked if I wanted to play the whole season. Huh. They paid me, and that was like the best contract that I had at the point.
Wow.
Yeah. And that's
it just so happened that you were like there, right? That's crazy.
Yeah.
Wow. What a journey, man. What did you like thinking back on all that now? Like what did you learn about yourself or about life or whatever? I'm just curious because I mean that's a good chunk of your, 20s, mid 20s ish years. So what are you thinking now as you look back on that?
Number one, I guess, from that is just to show up. Like, I actually, it's funny because before that I had an experience where I didn't have a job and I was told, no, you don't have this job. It was an internship with the San Diego Fire Department for their wellness program. And I was like,
Yeah.
okay, well, I'm going to be in San Diego. So like, that's what I want to do. And they're like, no, like we have people who already have their master's degrees who are just like begging for this internship. And I was like, at some point, one of you is going to need coffee, right? And you're going to be looking around. And you're going to like be upset that no one's there. So I literally walked like in the door with a huge box of donuts and a huge set of coffee. I had no idea how many people were working there. And they're like, what are you doing here? I was like, well, if you guys like need anything, if you need me to like clean anything or do anything, and they're like, there's got to be something else you can do or go. And I was like, I just really want to be here and learn from you guys. Hung around their office, and by the end of the summer, I was the one who was running and recording all of the wellness tests for the firefighters.
Oh wow!
So, just like showing up, and even though somebody kind of says no, to anybody who has stalker tendencies out there, that's not what I mean. But like, get in there and just say like, hey, you know what? You're the person that I want to learn from, or this is what I want to do. So this is where I have to be regardless. Even if you tell me no, I'm going to hang out and find out what I can do for you to help out. And that was it. That's what I did a bunch of times in my life, and it somehow worked out.
Oh, that's a cool lesson. My house is right next door to my house. I'm looking at it right now is a fire station. And so out my window in my office, I can always see the guys out doing their laps. And sometimes they're in like the full gear with like the machine so they can cruise around. And I'm always like, oh yeah, it must be exercise time.
Nice. Where do you live?
I live in South Salt Lake City right now. So,
okay.
But we're actually, there's some things happening where I might be coming back to Southern California. So I grew up in Southern California, and so I might be coming back. I've lived in Utah a long, long time now. I've lived in Utah a lot longer.
Do I get first dibs?
Well, yeah, you're probably not going to want me right now. I would need some time, and the job that I have now doesn't allow me to dedicate that time. But I appreciate the confidence.
Yeah, man. Like if you want to, like I can bring you pizza every day, and that'll be your salary as my partner.
Playing for pizza, I love it. That'd be a great another podcast title. Playing for pizza.
That would actually be awesome. Just to hear everybody's experiences.
Just have guys on and just talking about playing overseas. And
Barnett did that forever, right? I mean, he just stopped. But
yeah, it's one of the reasons why I started this was to kind of live, because I was on the Net Live a long time ago, and Barney and I have obviously known each other forever, Reed and I and Rich and I and everybody, and so so I'm like, no man, this can't stop. So I got hooked up with these guys from, I don't know, have you ever played CrossNet? Do you know what CrossNet is?
I know what it is. Yeah. Haven't played it yet.
You'll enjoy it. It's cool. It's just a fun game.
Short court with ADD.
Yeah. short court with multiple people. So it's kind of cool. I'm interested to see like really good guys play it and see how they can tweak the rules in the game. And I know when we were on the national team, like for practice, we'd have numbers of guys playing short court just to warm up. And it would literally, they would step on the court and it would be automatic. Who serves it? Let's go. And it would be short court right away. And so I'm like,
never stop playing. I think for CrossNet, you got to play with like no tools. Like if you tool it, like nobody gets a point or something.
Interesting.
Because that's a small court, and that's how he always played. Like exactly. You fake the hands, let them try to throw it out.
The thing that's interesting about it that I'm curious is the rules. The real rules of the game only give you one touch. Which is interesting.
Okay.
Because I'm thinking if you went 3 touches, if you had 3 touches, it would be pretty intense. Mm-hmm. But I'm wondering how it would look if maybe you could do a 2-touch game. You only get 2 touches. And so I don't know. There's a number of different things I think you could do that would be really interesting on how to play the game multiple people in the square, maybe. So you got, instead of just 4 people, you got 8 people. That would be interesting.
Let's change it.
Yeah. So I read about this. I Googled you. I got on as much information as I could. So you coached for Gold Medal Squared too, right? For a little while.
Oh yeah. Technically, I still coach for them.
Oh, okay, cool.
Because it's like, if they ever need, if their schedule's ever full, because I'm like, all right, like I got my own coaching company now.
Right.
Do my own things, and with what they paid me out of college, I was like, I'm trying to build my own business and my own legacy. So for me to give up a full 5 days of that stuff, but I said, if you're ever in a bind, let me know, and then I'll just give you, my schedule. And that company, every one of those guys has been like an unreal company as terms of like people, what they do for their employees, what they do for the people that they work with. And I try to model everything of what I do around how they treated me. Like, what can we do for him to make it easier? And it wasn't always that they just paid you like as much as you wanted and threw you a ton of money, but whatever they did, they made you super comfortable. Like for me, it was, they would, instead of buying a round trip flight, I was like, hey, there's an AVP tournament, or there's this like big tournament in Florida right after that. So instead of returning me to New York, can you just give me a travel stipend and I'll just like fly to New York to the camp and camp to Florida? Yeah. And they're just like, yeah, no problem. Go ahead and do that. Cool. So they made, for me and Hudson Bates, who's now associate head coach or assistant coach at Ohio State University.
Oh, okay.
They made a lot of things for us possible when trying to start our beach career. And cool. And the pay was great and the people were cool. So
yeah. Did you ever get to be with or coach with Carl?
I didn't.
Oh, that's too bad.
Yeah.
How about Chris?
This is the funny part. I've never been to a Gold Medal Squared clinic, like my
session.
Right. My first throw in was like, okay, here's the book, read the book, and then we're gonna put you as a low coach with a few of our more experienced coaches.
Yeah.
And right away they're like, oh, he's super comfortable with it. He learned it like that, and he's good with people. So I think it took me like my third camp, I was in the lead coach position.
Cool. Yeah, I just had I didn't know if you'd ever been with Carl at all, and I wanted to know if you had any good McGowan stories. He was an interesting guy. I'll tell you what. He was a magician when it came to volleyball. I'll tell you that much. But he's just an interesting guy. Anybody that ever knew Carl would tell you the same thing. I remember one time we were at practice when we were at BYU, and we were going at it pretty hard. And there's one guy on the team, and I won't divulge names or anything, but he was struggling a little bit that day. And Carl is one that he just doesn't beat around the bush. Like, he's just the guy that will tell you exactly how it is. So he goes up to him. He stops practice. We're all watching. This guy hits another ball out of bounds or something like that. And then he goes up to him and he grabs him by the face and he slaps him on the face and he goes, "You really suck today." And then he goes, "But there's always tomorrow." And you can see the guy, like, he was a little perplexed, like, man, like, well, how do I take that? Like, I feel terrible because he just slapped me and told me how much I sucked. But he's also has confidence in me that I'm going to come back tomorrow and be a better player. And so it was just like, those were the type of things that he would do and just kind of get under your skin. It was just a funny, interesting dynamic with him.
Am I in trouble there?
Yeah, no, that's exactly how it was. In his face, he's like, "Wait, how should I take that? I'm not 100% sure." But anyways, so you've got your YouTube channel, Better at Beach. What do you hope people get out of the content that you guys are producing there?
Oh man, coming up like through beach and trying to learn or find ways to improve at beach volleyball, like easy setup, like tons of videos where you can just keep looking and keep absorbing, doesn't exist. And for me originally, when I went out to California from like playing indoor college and overseas, and then like saying like, okay, I gotta go to California because that's where volleyball players live.
Right.
So I went over there here, and as you just show up at the beach and nobody wants to play with you. When you get to California, like nobody wants to play with you. It's kind of competitive. It's closed group. They got 4, and they're like, no, we have 4. This is our court. And so you end up like serving to yourself a lot with your one ball, and like you bump to yourself and you hit a cut shot and you go and you chase that, which sucks.
Right.
And when I first got out here, coaches in beach volleyball just flat out didn't exist.
Yeah.
I think like Jeff Alzina was a revolutionary because he was like the first beach volleyball coach, and then like Reese brought him over to coach them and everything. So when I created VolleyCamp Hermosa, like the camps, I said that there has to be an easier way for people to find a coach, find players, and like find a place to sleep so they don't have to sleep on like kitchen floors and stuff.
Yeah.
So I want to create that, an easier way for you to come out in California and just get better. Like if you want to get better at beach volleyball, here's the one-click easiest way. We got everything set up for you. And then I realized that my real goal was getting as many people, helping as many people get better at the game as possible. Because I've always loved the idea of a coach. Like it's incredible that like we're talking about Carl now, and how many of you guys who got to work with him, and I worked under his systems. Like now his reach and the ripple effect that he's had in other people, like he lives on for centuries now, just because of like the seeds of knowledge that he planted. And so I've always loved that about coaching. And I always thought like, man, what a special thing that somebody lets you into their athletic journey. And okay, like, so it's really about me wanting to help as many people as I can get better at beach volleyball. How do I do that? And I realized I could not do that in person. Like I can only coach 8, 12 people at a time.
Yeah.
So it became a thing where we posted a couple videos on YouTube. Like they got like 7,000 shares off of our first few videos. And I was like, this is what people are missing. And this is how I can connect with the entire world. And so it's just trying as hard as we can to go from there. But, there's 2.5 of us. And the money doesn't come fast in beach volleyball.
Right.
So we're just kind of always like riding the edge of bankruptcy, able to pay rent. And then like, okay, we created another product that helps sell, but now we have to reinvest into the next product. So
right.
We'll see.
Good
hopefully
guys.
There's a turn, or there's a like flywheel syndrome there.
Yeah. And then with VolleyCamp Hermosa, so what's your purpose there? Are you taking what you're trying to do virtually and providing people a platform to actually come do it live, or is there something else that you guys are
first?
Yeah.
So that was first, and that's kind of like, now I realize that the VolleyCamp Hermosa was the testing ground for Better at Beach. Like, okay, I've coached a lot of hours in the last 5 years in person, and tried to get other coaches on board, and we've had a few coaches who kind of didn't survive the rounds, and so now I know like what Gold Medal Squared went through, and we're creating our own protocol of what we think is important and how we teach the game, and that's really it. But for me, like VolleyCamp was always originally, you have to come to California if you want to go to the Pro Tour. Like if you want to get on the AVP, boom. And still today, 98% of the people on the Pro Tour are in California.
Yeah.
You got one guy in Minnesota, you got a couple guys in Florida, and a couple of guys and girls in Texas, and like that's it. So it was always like that. Hey, if you want to try it, like I was trying to be like the Bring It Tour. Like, we will take you, we will show you what pro volleyball and training is about, and we'll introduce you to the right people. That's what it was originally, and then it blossomed into Better at Beach.
Yeah, Gold Medal Square wasn't always Gold Medal Squared. I remember when I used to coach for Carl way back when, and before it was Gold Medal Squared, it was called Canyon Volleyball. And you probably didn't even know that.
Not know that.
Yeah. So, but when like Doug Beal jumped on, and like Marv Dunphy jumped on, and I think Jim McLaughlin was one of the original guys to jump on, and just powerhouse coaches. And And of course, Carl and Doug and Marv kind of developed this system of how to play volleyball the right way, and being able to extend that through their system. It obviously has just blossomed from there. So let's dig a little bit on coaching for a bit. So what do you feel like is the most underutilized but most critical beach volleyball skill?
Oh, setting. Nobody knows until you're in the game for like a year of full time in the game. And by full time, I mean you're playing it 2 hours every day.
Right.
You don't realize how crucial setting is. Because it's so hard to like adjust. And if you have a set that kind of puts you a little bit awkward, you can't power your way out of it, because you don't have like the adjustment footwork that you might have in indoor. Like you can't like broad jump to a ball. You can, just significantly less than indoor. And so setting, I'm continuing to argue that setting is significantly more valuable than passing on beach. I think that if you have a bad passer who is a fantastic hitter, you might have played with a young David Lee. You know, he's like, his setting and passing are, we're going to call him the top 1% of the world, but he's not the top 1% of the 1%.
Right.
But he can get himself out of anything because he's so athletic and so physical. You know, so long as you have a setter there who can then put him back in that window. Right.
Even though he might not be the best ball control guy.
Right.
As long as you got somebody that's willing to put a ball somewhere where he can go up and get it and do what he does, then the pass becomes not quite at, or the ball control in the initial pass it's not as critical, is what you're saying, right? Right.
Because and if you have a setter who can't fix a play, you'll never win a transition point.
Yeah.
You know, and I think like indoor went that way as well with kind of, I guess, Brazil and maybe early on Dominican Republic and Cuba, where they're training all of their young players to play every position for like a certain period when they were young, so that anybody on those teams can create a hittable second ball.
Yeah.
You know, and I think maybe 10, 15 years ago was when that transition happened of like, no, everybody on our team needs to be able to set something good. In case our setter's gone. So I think that the number one thing that people need to focus on is becoming a fantastic setter, because that's when anybody will love playing with you.
Yeah.
Because like the good feeling that you get from a great spike and from like being in a perfect hitting position is, we'll say that the bad feeling that you get when somebody doesn't get you into that situation enough, you just start hating them.
Yeah.
It's like, there's my perfect pass, there's another dig, and now I don't get to swing. It's like, apologies for whoever hears this, but like, it's blue balls, right? You get like so excited and everything's right, and then it's gone. You know.
Totally.
So I think that setting has to be a primary skill.
I don't know if you remember this, but in 2008 when we won gold for gold medal point, we rallied, and I actually had to step out and set the last ball because Loy. So I went up, I tried to hit it down and overpass, and the Brazilians blocked it back to us. And Loy played the first ball, and so that meant I needed to step in and set. And I set it to Clay, and that's when we won gold. Is I was setting out of position, and so. But what a lot of people probably don't know when they see that is because I would come into practice early.
Serving?
What's that?
Weren't you serving?
No, Brazil's serving us the ball. We had one side out to win, so it's Brazil serving us the ball. So
because I thought you came in at the end of one of the games. There was a big prominent game that I remember you coming in to serve towards the end.
No, it wasn't that one.
Different game.
Yeah. What I was saying was people don't really realize is that so when we would practice, the liberos and the outside hitters would go in early to practice to just pass balls. So they would be, people would be hitting spinners at them and they would just be passing balls. And what I would do, and pretty soon after, a lot of the other middles would come in and do, is I would actually set off of their passes. instead of them like dumping them into a ball cart or something, I'd toss the
Mm-hmm.
ball cart, or I'd put the ball cart on the outside or put it back, and I would go in and I would set balls that they would pass off of early, knowing that there was going to be times when I needed to step into that role and deliver sets, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so it just so happened that the moment is when I needed to be able to rely on that the most. And of course, I set Clay, and he hits it at 12 feet and goes and crushes everyone like he always does. So, because he's a beast.
Oh man, that's
Um,
awesome. So I love that you went and you got those extra reps and that you
right.
prepared for like the the 5% scenario. Like that's way outside your 80-20. But you're like, there's a time where I'm gonna have to make this play, and then you went into practice early, you did it, and then it paid off, and then that was infectious for other people.
That's right.
I remember seeing a couple of our middles set in college, and anytime you knew that they had to set, everybody held their breath. And if like it wasn't a double, it was like, oh, like that's all that we were hoping for. We weren't hoping for a good set. We're hoping for a not double.
That's funny. Oh, I hope the other guys on our team, when like me or Dave would set, weren't like, like, oh no, you know what I mean? That's funny.
Maybe.
What do you think? What do people that want to get better at playing beach need to focus more on besides that? What we just talked about. Is there anything else that you think, if I want to get better at the game, what should I be focusing on?
There's a couple of skill things that I do want to touch on, but something happens in beach volleyball that doesn't happen in indoor. Like indoor, you kind of always start by getting coached. So a lot of your skills, like you don't have too much of an opportunity to get into really bad habits and just have them kind of ignored. There's always some kind of leader on the side that's pushing you through that. And that's why I think these 30-year-olds right now are getting their butts kicked by these 15-year-olds, because the 30-year-olds started playing beach when they were 20, but never got a coach to help them make these things. But the 15-year-old girl who's been playing since she was 12, she has not been on a court without a coach helping her.
Mm-hmm.
So, her hours are worth 3 times whatever the 30-year-old's hours are worth, because they're not, able to make these mistakes. Somebody's guiding them. So for me, one thing is like, get a few lessons, like every, if it's not about like money or whatever, just get it every few months to make sure that you're on the right path, like ask those questions, because beach volleyball coaches now, they're becoming more prominent, but they definitely have not been. Like now they're all of a sudden popular and trendy, and there's clubs popping up everywhere. And I'm like, where did all these beach coaches come from? But
Right.
so for me, it's about finding somebody that can help you and say like, can you just look at me play for a little while and just give me some notes so that I'm not making it up, because so many of these adults they get into it, they love it, it's a fun game, but you just kind of make it up.
Yeah.
So I think finding a coach and keeping like a regular, like every couple months or 3 months, go ahead and give me that. And then other than that, stop blocking throughout like all of the amateur levels.
Right.
People just waste their time at the net when that's not what creates points. Like the only reason why we have like Phil Dowhauser and Andy Mole is because you have such extreme athletes who can bang from half court. That's when you need a blocker. But if the person on the other side of the net, if they take 10 swings, and you don't think that, like, if they swung as hard as they could at you at 10 times, if you can catch 3 of them with them on an open net, stop blocking. Like, if you think that would be their statistic, like, stop blocking, because you should be able to ball control that. And if they're short and they're weak and they can't jump and they can't hit hard consistently, and you block with them, well, now you've given them their only out. Like, they can shoot around your defender.
Right.
So I think people need to stop blocking and really start like looking and locating more than they try to hit.
It's so funny that you say that, because I remember when I used to coach, even indoor, and I'd coach like these high school girls, and I would tell them, if it's not a perfect pass, just get off the net immediately. It's like, why you guys, you're going to block 1 out of 1,000 balls, first of all, because you're like this high over the net, right?
Yeah.
And then I'm like, so what's the purpose of you blocking? And by the way, 60% of the balls that are be coming at you are either going to be free balls, which you're not going to block anyways, or they're going to be roll shots, which you don't want to be at the net because who knows, maybe they're using the tool you or whatever. But I'm just like, if it's not a perfect pass, immediately get in your hitting position and duck low so your back row hitters can pass the ball. And I would tell them all the time, I'm like, why are you guys blocking? You're not going to block anything.
Did the same with my juniors team. But so I have a question for you.
Yeah.
Because I did do that with my juniors team. We had one front row player. They were our middles, and they blocked the entire front row.
Okay.
So we played like one middle who could try to block as much as he could, but I trained my pin blockers to just peel off and play on the tees.
Right.
But where's the line where you're like, I need to train them the movements so that they are ready when they're strong enough and big enough.
Right.
And, where do you find that line? Like, am I training them for the next level? So do I need to prepare them to block right now? Or is this beneficial for them because they're learning how to read and see the game and have more ball control? But where do you stand on that?
It's a good question. I would probably put because really in essence what you're doing is you're just training them from a footwork standpoint. Because again, most of them aren't even getting a full hand over the net. So you're not doing any hand work. You might be doing some eye work in regards to getting them to be more effective at reading what's going on, which of course is really valuable. But, so from a footwork standpoint, I think you could designate some solid blocking footwork time in practice. Not a huge chunk, but just so they know what the steps are, how to get certain places here or there. But I'm just like, when you know that the ball's coming at you and it's not coming fast and there's, you're not going to have anybody crushing the ball at you. And you're having the girls jump up straight up, and some of them are even like going backwards, and it's like, well, why are you even there? You know what I mean? And so it's just, to me, it's more valuable for them to play those balls out and develop their competitive spirit and wanting to try to win and strategize around how to win than it is for them to be perfect in their blocking form during a time when it's not even that critical to them. So carve out a little bit of time, but I'd say dedicate most of it around ball control. 'Cause you know how it is at that age. It's ball control and serving. Those are the two things that I'm working on all the time with the girls. If I've got them, or even guys at that age. And it's ball control and serving.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, I think I totally agree. You use like a warm up time. Your warm up time should be, do a little DROMs, but then in between your DROMs, a footwork pattern.
Right.
Just make those things unconscious.
Right. What do you like most?
I have a story about Marv, actually.
Oh, really? I like a good Marv story.
So like when I started playing volleyball in college, right, that summer, I was like, I have no idea how to play the game, and I'm going to spend a summer not getting coached. So I did the same thing. I called and emailed as many coaches as I could, and I said, hey, can I come work your camp? Because I know you're coaching, and maybe you need a counselor that you can pay me if you want, but I don't need pay. And it'd be nice to have a free place to stay and some food. And they all provided that, which was cool. But I said, I wanted to learn how all the other coaches coach because I missed out on the whole junior club program. So I always felt behind like a good 5 or 6 years from everybody with me. So I had Pepperdine boys camp, got invited, went there. Marv was happy to have me. And I didn't know like anything about gold medal scored footwork. And gold medal scored was just something that I kept hearing that I just ignored. And he had one of his counselors, I think it was a really good college player. And he had him doing transition hitting footwork, right? Like you had to get on the net, transition footwork off, go and hit.
Yeah. He
would not let this player off of the court in front of 180 boys. Wouldn't let this like 22-year-old kid off of the court because he didn't do the exact footwork correct 10 times in a row.
Hmm.
And he would get to like 6 and be like, nope, start over. And my mind was going, he's wasting all of these boys' times, like just watching this guy struggle and die on the court and like be embarrassed in front of a bunch of teenagers that he's now supposed to coach.
Right.
But he didn't let him off. And I was watching from the side because I had no idea how to do this footwork. And I was like, I'm not letting that situation happen to me. So I'm there like 3 courts away, like listening and just learning that footwork while watching him coach somebody else. But I remember just Marv being brutal with somebody and saying like, no, if you don't get it right, you don't get to move on.
Yeah.
And I really like the way that he handled that. And it also showed the boys like, you got to do it right. Because me and the other coaches, nothing's going to happen until you get it right.
That sounds like something Marv would do. Don't 2 things.
And then he got into
Marv.
his golf cart and he drove away.
Yeah. I was going to say 2 things with Marv. Don't ever play ping pong with him and don't ever play cards with him. That's just 2 pieces of advice that I've had dealing with him. But he's I love that guy. He's such an amazing human being. Huge heart, great mind. What do you like most about the game, about the beach game right now? I mean, right now, obviously, it's a little bit hard to say because we're in this crazy time. But before COVID and everything, what did you like about the game right now?
That our creativity is catching up with indoor. We saw the indoor wave of like 70s and 80s, just kind of figuring out and chucking up high, straight up and down balls, find the tallest person you could, rip. And then kind of like the Brazilians, I think, were the first people to be like, we don't have 7-foot Russians on our team. So I bet we can get like single blocks by running fast.
Right.
And then I think you were the first generation to out Brazil the Brazilians, where like you took that speed offense and ball control and like all around athletes on the court and you beat them at like what they started. That's kind of how I saw that progression coming. And now when I look at indoor, it's so fast.
Yeah.
And everybody's big now.
Yep.
And it's so fast. So now like I'm excited because I saw that kind of wave and I was around people who were talking about it and discussing it. And now I'm finally seeing that with beach where I feel like I get to be playing during a huge evolution of the sport. Because now it's okay and encouraged to attack on too.
Yeah.
Like you don't get called like, oh, you're a co-ed player, play the game for real. It's like, play defense. If I only need 2 touches to beat you, you suck.
Right.
Like it's not me like needing to be more proud to beat you with 3 touches. It means you're not paying attention and you're not competitive.
Yeah.
So we got that. Now people are jump setting.
Yeah.
We're running like jump set option offenses.
Yeah. I see that too. Back sets to the pins.
Yeah.
All sorts of stuff.
Get rid of that one blocker. The whole mentality was we only have one. You should be able to get around them. And now it's like, yeah, we have one and he's going to be broken. Like we're going to get open nets. And so it's really cool to be playing and coaching at a time while that evolution is happening and to see like all of these like young kids just back setting for kills, seeing the court and like finding those momentary opportunities to end the point.
That's cool.
That's my
what are you looking for in a partner? What do you look most for in a partner?
Setting.
Amen to that again. Yeah.
Setting, probably a calm and open to learn demeanor. I like to be able to discuss stuff, and then they also have to kind of let me get fired up. I can be externally seemingly out of control. Like I could be laying into a ref while internally I'm just super calm.
Yeah.
Like I'm controlling this situation, but my mind is already on the next point. And when people play with me in the beginning, they think that like I'm out of control and I'm going to lose the next point and there's just going to be this trickle down. And I'm like, nah, in here I'm good, but I need to let this person know. I need to let the other team know that they think that I'm rattled and all this. So I need somebody who can stay calm and problem solve in a lot of situations. And realizing really late how to teach blockers. There is so much detail, and I think that there aren't enough great blockers because, stick with me here, there's not enough high level blockers who can teach a 6'7", 6'8" guy to play. Like everybody who is 6'5" and under, every one of them has enough experience to teach defenders how to do their job.
Right.
But think about the guys who are super athletic, were amazing blockers, were 6'6" and up.
Yeah.
And now went into coaching after they're done playing.
Right.
And they found another one of them.
Right. So it's just the pool is small. So then you don't get that knowledge transfer in a way that you could around a guy that's just going to scrap everywhere on the court, right?
Exactly.
Yeah. That makes total sense, by the way. Who's the best player you ever played with?
With?
Yeah. Where you were just like, you play with this person and you're like, whoa, like this person knows how to ball.
Oh man. I mean, I've played like on the same side in a tournament, because we all kind of play with each other at some point, like in a practice
and stuff. Yeah.
Drills. In a tournament, I got to play in a KOB in Vegas when I was really young and had no idea what I was doing, but I got to be on the same side of the net and against the net from Casey Patterson and Sean Rosenthal.
Yeah.
And in tournaments, I guess consistently, like the best guy that I got to play in the tournament. Oh, Tri Bourne. I played with Tri. Yeah, he's the highest performer that I've ever competed with.
Yeah.
And I played with him for 2 tournaments in Brazil a bunch of years back when Hayden got hurt.
Yeah, cool. Who's the best player that you've ever played against on the beach? That you were just like that guy's above and beyond.
It's really crazy playing against Phil, and I know that it's like old. Like
everybody says
been
that.
Playing this for 2 decades. Yeah, Phil.
Right.
But he can get to plays and close blocks from a hustle standpoint. No one has ever looked at Phil and been like, that guy is a hardcore hustler, worked out. But in these situations where you're beating them with speed, right? And you like now they're playing catch up, so now you're feeding the ball quick so that you can just slap it down.
Right.
He gets there and he closes when he shouldn't be there. Gets there and gets 2 hands on the other side of the net where you're just like, A, you just jumped from half court and now your hands are over the net at the pin.
Right.
And B, I've never seen you move that fast, and you don't even look like you're moving that fast, but you can still close it. His discipline, and when you just see him hitting on the other side of the net, it's tough to deal with. And then the amount of space that he can take over the block is crazy. But he did this one thing, and he cheated, and I go like, this guy's a genius, because nobody saw him. I think this was 2 years ago in Chicago, maybe last year. But, you go up for a joust and you kind of like battle. Sometimes it falls on one side and then you play it.
Yeah.
I went up to joust and I got like him and I was like, muscling him, and he's got 2 hands and he's up in the air and he goes like this with the joust.
He threw it back to Nick?
So grabbed it while I was contacting it. As I released, threw it high and back to Nick. And then they had 3 more touches because a joust doesn't count as a touch.
Did they win the rally? Did they win the point?
Mark beat him in the joust because he kind of like
went backwards.
Like
wow, interesting.
When I felt that, I was like, I'm like screaming at the ref. I'm like, he's throwing it back. But at the same time, like I had like so much respect for him to be in the air and be in the air so many times and in that situation enough where he's like, well, instead of maybe giving them a free ball back, we're going to get a swing out of this. Joust, joust, joust. Ah.
Wow. That's some volleyball IQ right there.
Exactly. I was blown away. Like 10 years into my career, and I was like,
I've never seen that before. Oh man. So you played with Dave. How was it? How was it playing with David? He's a
I
beast.
love
Talk about putting up a
playing
big
with you.
block. That guy covers a lot of space.
God.
Good heavens. I've seen him stuff balls indoors. I'm just like, holy, I mean, I played a long time and I'm like, dude, this guy's got something else. What's really interesting about him is he's a really late bloomer because in college he was good, but he wasn't, he wasn't like at the superstar level. But then when he got on the national team, and he was exactly what our team needed in '08, and he's obviously had a really great career beyond that. But gosh, he would dominate matches, which is really rare to do indoor, just because you're playing against the game is so fast and big. But his ability to just get in the right space, his hands are really good, and he
His
just takes up really
handwork.
good angle, and it's just he's an impressive guy.
How many different shapes he can do with his hands. And that's what the majority of blockers right now are missing. They think that like when you block, it's this, and
Right.
it's only shape. And what he brought from playing at such an elite level was like
Different
being in
areas,
the
yeah.
air and completely always replacing
Yeah.
his hands, bring them up, bring them forward, out, both across, whatever he wanted to do.
And then you're always guessing, because then it's like, well, I don't know where he's going to go. I mean, sometimes he's over here, sometimes he's over there. So then you start getting in your mind, like, I don't really know what to do here.
Yep.
I don't know if you saw that at all, but.
No, 100%. Like, that's what he does. So yeah, we played together for a few tournaments, and I love the guy. So like I said, you know, I fanboyed you over email. And we were out at a bar after like an AVP, and I went up to him and I was like, "Dude, this is gonna be weird, but like I saw your whole career. I loved watching you play. I just want to say, like, man, I'm like stoked on your career, stoked what you did for USA Volleyball, and just want to say like how much I respect your game." And he's like, he puts me in a headlock, and like orders like 7 beers.
That sounds like him. He's a super cool dude. Was a really, really great guy to play with indoor too. Just a great teammate. Worked his ass off. Just
like open to learning, but then like but not so calm where he doesn't know how to turn it on.
Right.
You know, like some people have that open learning, but you never see that fire. And he had this, I'm gonna learn this attitude and the urgency to say like, we got to win now, and I have to learn this now.
And to be able to play with a guy that knows kind of what it takes to get to a level that a lot of people maybe don't even ever dream about getting to. Because like I remember when I first played, my first Olympics was in Sydney. We finished in last place. We didn't win a single match, if you remember that Olympics. And I was just thinking to myself after that games, and I was young, I was thinking, man, the distance between where we are and what it takes to get to a gold medal standard was so massive. I'm like, I don't know how this is ever going to happen. Like, we're going to have to make up so much ground. And to be able to do that during those next 8 years was a testament to a lot of guys on that team, was a testament to Hugh and our coaching staff and everything that we put in place. But like, you know, Dave kind of saw what it took, because he was 2008 when we won gold was his first Olympic experience. And so he's like, okay, then he goes into 12 and then he goes into 16. And he's like, guys, I'm curious if you ever had the conversations with the rest of the guys, like, guys, you guys I don't know if you fully grasp how hard this is going to be. Like, this isn't something that's just everybody does it every day. Like, we need to be the best. And this is going to require something that maybe you've never even tapped into. And just to have that knowledge in him, I think would be really helpful.
Yeah. I'm not like knocking Dave, so don't take it like that. But he takes a look at beach and he's like, I played a full indoor career. There was good money. If you win, if you put in all of that time, he's looking at like the quality of life value, where he's like, I can play volleyball without like all this pressure, without leaving my girlfriend, without going here and going there. He's like, how much money do you really get? And he looks at it as, is it really worth it for me to go through what I went through with the indoor team,
right,
to do this for beach,
right,
and then not make the same money by any means
anyway,
that I made.
And look, I mean, you and I, we're not going to fault him for having that mindset. It's
Not at
a
all.
natural mindset. I mean, the guy's, you know, he went and played. We all played in Russia. We made all this money, and like, you know, switching to the beach. It's more of, look, there's a point where you just can't handle the indoor game anymore. It's too much of a grind. It's grueling. It's brutal. And then going to the beach, it's a different type of beast. You know, you're able to kind of manage it from a physical standpoint, but then you've got to make the switch to the mental standpoint, which probably gets the guys that are really high performers, that they're just kind of dominating because they've made that switch where it's just like, yeah, I'm all in here. Versus I'm just continuing to play because I really love the game. I love being out on the sand. I love being with my homies, whatever it ends up being like for you. But
There's
yeah,
a difference
it's
in practicing with like with those elite guys like Jake Gibb. When you see him practice, who if you go to like a Nick and Phil practice, John Hayden, you don't mess with their practice, like especially Hayden. He's just like, nope, like we have this minute to minute schedule. I'm going to be here for an hour and 55 minutes and then I'm out. And like, if you waste one of those minutes, he's furious. So there are a lot of guys that brought that, but then there's a lot of guys that kind of practice like, well, like willy-nilly, you know, like they show up, they kind of do this one weird warm up. And that's where I think that there is that huge disadvantage in beach where we're not progressing the sport as quickly as we should, especially in the US, because it's too expensive for players to bring on these coaches and say, I want you to grind us this season until we are, you know, beautiful, shiny graphite.
Yeah. And you got the guys in Norway just coming out of nowhere and just dominating. I want to get those guys on the podcast because I want to tap into like, what was the switch with you guys? Like, you go from like nobody even knowing who you are to like pretty much dominating the FIVB, winning.
Well, they went through puberty.
Yeah, that'll probably help.
As soon as that first little hair came out of their chin, they got a knife.
They start getting muscles. They're like, man, we can hit a lot harder now. Oh, that's funny. All right, I'm gonna let you go with this one. Oh yeah, if you want to comment on that, go ahead.
Sorum's father was a really elite volleyball player, so he's been coaching them like his whole life. And
so they got some heritage. They've got some heritage to their story.
And they have 2 volleyball schools in Norway, where you go there and 3 to 4 hours of your day, no matter what, is dedicated to learning indoor or beach volleyball, depending on your discipline. So they both went to those. So they've been eating and breathing volleyball for a long time.
Yeah, that makes sense. So here's the question: what's your dream win?
Oh man, Manhattan Beach.
Yeah, I mean you're not going to go hometown, you know, New York AVP. You're not going to go gold medal in the Olympics. It's Manhattan still the crown.
I always perform. I don't know why. It's not like nerves or anything. Maybe it is, and I just haven't tapped into it. But I always perform my worst in New York.
Oh, really?
It was like my bottom finish of the year, and it's just a nightmare. It's great because I get to spend an extra 2 days with my family, but it's like, why can't?
But you'd rather be playing still.
Yes. Yeah. So Manhattan Beach, I mean, getting immortalized on that pier.
That's cool. That's
another level. Yeah.
And I mean, Reed's going to be on the show soon. He and we've just been very close for a long, long time. And to see him win that was just so cool for me. And just kind of out of nowhere, you know what I mean? He partners up and they'd never even played before really. And then they just put it all together and put together a really.
But he's another example of that guy that treats practice like this is sacred, hardcore time. And he made sure that he had coaches around him for the first 2 years. Like there was never a time when he didn't have somebody supporting him, finding him, studying the stats, running the practice, running the body optimization. So he did the hack, you know, the beach hack, like he was talking about. It's just not possible for everybody.
Yeah, he's definitely like that. He's a very cerebral type of player. He wants to figure out how he's taking the Tom Brady approach where it's like, okay, so look, I know I've got these limitations. I just came from the indoor game. Like, I'm older in years, so how am I going to figure out how to hack it all together so that I can perform at my peak performance? And training obviously is a huge part of that, and his ability to create some type of competitive advantage, whatever it looks like for him, because he's going to be going against guys that are in their mid-20s and jumping out of the sand and hammering balls, and and he's got to figure out how to manipulate it all so that he can create the advantage. And by the end of the match, those guys that are jumping out of the sand, they're going, what just happened? Like how do we lose that? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So,
hey, I have a question. It's a Reed story that I share. I forget who told me, but it was somebody in the gold medal squared circle. So I just want to know if it's true. Because you talked about that time when you guys had to make such a mental and emotional switch with the national team. And then Reed also talked about, like, at the end of that era, there was a whole new crop of guys that had a very different emotion level, and it currently works for them, like Holt and Matt Anderson. But there was like
Taylor
two
Sander.
different emotions with the two different teams.
Yeah.
And I heard that there was somebody, like, they didn't have their shoes on yet. They were in the national team gym. I don't know if it was Anaheim or Colorado at the time, but they were just kind of like, shoes weren't even tied. They had a ball and they're like peppering it, knocking it back and forth. And the ball falls as they're peppering, and guy doesn't go for it. He just catches it on one bounce and starts hitting it again. And I heard that Reed was at the other end of the gym with a door open watching this, and that he sprinted over, because this was this kid's like first time in the national team gym, that he sprinted across the gym, like an obnoxious sprint for like 4 courts. And he like lays into him and he says, no one in this gym ever lets a ball hit the in-ground. Get your gear on, and when you step in here, it means something. And like just like reamed him out when his like shoes weren't tied and he was just like fiddling with a ball. Don't know if that's true. I'd love confirmation, but I'm not going to stop sharing the story if it's not
true. I don't remember that specifically because it might have been after me a little bit, but where, Reed is kind of the elder statesman on the team. So there was a little bit of a changing of the guard in regards to who's going to be that veteran voice in the gym. And, but I can remember multiple opportunities or times when things that were similar to that happened in the gym, because here's the thing. If you're a new guy in the gym, the ability for you to stay in that gym is pretty small, because you're going to have 20 other guys, potentially 15 guys in your same position, not only fighting to be on the team, but also fighting for their livelihood. Because if I make the team, if I go on trips, that means I get better jobs overseas. And so it's like, everyone's kind of in it for the common goal, but like, if you're coming into the gym and you're not ready to rock and roll, like there's going to be somebody right next to you going, oh, sweet. So that's one guy I can check off my list that I need to beat because he's already gone. And so there's really no room for messing around. When you're in the gym, it's go time. The reason why I say indoor is so hard, and it's probably, I'm assuming it's like this on the beach too, for the teams that really want to make it happen. When we step on the court, it's go time. I'm not messing around because this is what I've chosen to commit to. Here's another Carlism. He used to tell us this all the time, and it blends perfectly to what we're talking about here. He used to tell us almost every day before practice, he goes, hey guys, if we're going to be here, we might as well be here. Meaning, if you've decided to put on your shoes and your knee pads and you're willing to put in the time to be on this team right now, and you're not willing to be here 100%, then this isn't the place for you. Because when we're here, we're here. We're going to get the job done. It's not going to monopolize your life. You're not going to crawl out of here in 2.5 hours. You're going to walk out. But when you're here for this time, you got to make it happen, or else someone else is going to be chomping at the bit to do that. So it's just a mindset. That's the winner's mindset, right? Because you're talking about guys like Hayden Reed, Phil, Jake Gibb. They get on the court and it's like, okay, it's go time. If I'm going to be here, I might as well be here. Doesn't make sense for me to mess around. If I want to mess around, I go home and I play with my kids and go be with my family. Right. When I'm here, this is what I've chosen to do. So let's go make it happen. And pretty soon it's going to be over, and I'm going to pack up the balls and we're going to head out, and I'm going to go live my life. But when I'm here, it's game time. So let's make it happen.
Love that. Love that mentality. It's funny trying to bring that to Sorry for holding you probably too long.
No, no worries.
But it's always a fun experiment for me bringing that to these hobby players, basically. The people who are paying me to come to like a class on Hermosa
Right.
Beach, the group class. And my practice is I stay positive, but it's no nonsense. Like there's 55-year-old men and women out there that I'm like, you got to get on the ground to get that ball.
Right.
There's no reason for you to let that hit the ground. And then you come back and you can't like continue to berate them, and I don't think any coach like should,
No.
unless their person is like such a consistent virus to their court.
Right.
But then like patting them on the back and be like, now do you see the expectation? Let's do it again. And
Yeah.
I think people secretly, not so secretly, they love it. They're like, somebody is here to push me again. And I'm back in high school sports, or I'm back in college sports. And even though I'm 45, 50, it's like, this is a good feeling to have an expectation and to have somebody set a standard for me. And all I got to do now is reach it. So you can have one mind.
Yeah. And who knows, maybe they can take that mindset back to whatever they do in their day job. You know what I'm saying? Like, hey, I'm going to an office, or I'm running a small business, or whatever it is. And it's the same type of mindset. Like, if I've chosen to be here, I'm going to put in what I need to put in to make it work. And I don't know. It's just, it's a cool thing to talk about with somebody who also knows how to go through the mental gymnastics and grind of being a professional athlete and trying to make it happen. Because it's not for everyone. That's why not everyone is a professional athlete. It's because a lot of people, it's too hard for them. They get to a point where they're like, well, this isn't for me. I got to go try something else. And that's fine. But it's those people that are able to grind through and make it happen that end up doing extraordinary things or being extraordinary at whatever it is that they're doing. It just takes that mental fortitude to push through.
Yeah, right. Don't tell me you want to be a professional athlete. Like, go to your full-time job, then throw in an extra 5 hours of labor intensive, whatever it is, and then film and all that.
And then, by the way, the next day you got to do the same thing over again, and you got to do that for 10, 15 years. So tell me if you want to be a professional athlete now. It's like, I think I'll pass. So, Mark, this was awesome, man. I appreciate you being on the show. I'd love to get you back on as things, calm down as much as they can. It would be cool to get you back on and dig in on some more things, but it was great to get your perspective on everything. Thanks.
That would be awesome. Yeah, right. Thank you so much for inviting me on. Pleasure meeting you. I knew the type of athlete you were and the type of leader you were, but honestly, it's so nice to meet you, and you're really easy to talk with. So
cool.
I'm happy that a guy like you is doing something like this.
Yeah, you gotta keep growing the sport, man, and we'll make that happen here on the show. So appreciate it. Thanks. Take care.
All right.
Take care. Bye bye.